What's up, everybody? It's Adrian with Trish Toys, and this is my 97 Batman and Robin Batmobile from McFarlane. When I initially bought this thing, I really wasn't going to do much customization on it. Batman and Robin was definitely not my favorite Batman movie. I'm pretty sure I'd hate it. It has some elements in it that may work for some people, but for me, I just couldn't get jiggy with the movie. So that kind of led me to wonder whether I wanted to actually do some sort of upgrades to this thing. When I started looking at the Batmobile, there were elements of it that I actually dug, especially after looking in the Batmobile book that I have and looking at pictures online. It's not a badly designed Batmobile. I think just the movie that it was in sort of gives it a bad rep. So I said, all right, let me go ahead and upgrade this thing. Now, the first thing you got to know was, in order to make this thing look the way it does, I added about 23 LEDs. I know, that's a lot. I went through a lot of research. I looked at a lot of pictures, a lot of source material. I even forced myself to watch parts of Batman and Robin, painfully. But I was able to sort of get the idea of how I wanted to customize this thing. So the first part of this that I wanted to tackle was the headlights. So I decided to put two warm white LEDs in each of the lenses. These are 3mm bulbs that I wired all the way to the back of the Batmobile. The second thing that I wanted to do was tackle the lights in the wheels. Now, in the actual movie, the LEDs are a little bit different, but there wasn't really a way for me to get them like they were in the movie. So what I did was I settled on putting 4 blue LEDs, one in each tire. I had to drill a hole and essentially install those LEDs that peer through the body through to the actual inside of the wheels. Now, aside from everything else, the third thing that I really had to ask myself was I going to keep the LEDs that McFarlane had already included? And I came to the conclusion that, yeah, I already paid for them, so I'm going to keep them. So the red LEDs that are on the side are stock McFarlane LEDs, as well as the white ones that remain underneath the body inside of the car. So the next step that I wanted to do was get that icy cobalt blue, neon looking blue that peers through the vents of this Batmobile. So I ended up adding 2 ice blue LEDs just on the bottom inside of the body that sort of peer out through the front vents. And then I added 3 more at the top to make those claw looking shapes slightly more neon cobalt blue, which I think gives a very good effect on this particular Batmobile. The next thing that I wanted to do was I really wanted to capture the back thrusters. I didn't just want to put red lights, so I decided to install 6 5mm flickering red LED bulbs in the back. These weren't terribly hard to install, but I did have to add extension wires to group them together just to make it a little less messy. With 23 added LEDs inside, this thing is bananas on the inside. I used a lot of tape, a lot of sticky tack just to make sure that everything stayed put. Now, when I first looked at this thing, I was like, I'm not going to do the spine part with the blue stripes. I'm not going to do the back tail lights. And yeah, as always, I made a liar out of myself. So when I was doing the spine LEDs, I had to get a drill and a Dremel and cut those parts out. I had to take my time with it because I did not want to scratch the body. After that, I applied tape and I poured in some UV resin and I cured it with a UV light. One of the mistakes I made was I allowed a little bit too many bubbles and the UV resin didn't cure equally. So that was one of the mistakes that I made on it. However, it does look kind of cool. It sort of gives like this, energy fluid type look. So I just went ahead and kept it like that. It didn't have to be perfect. Underneath that, on the inside, I put a piece of parchment paper to diffuse the light, and then I installed 2 ice blue LEDs to make it sort of have this glow effect. Same type of idea I did with the back tail lights. I went ahead and cut out those parts and I used some red UV resin and cured it. Came out smooth, nice, everything was cool. I installed 2 red LEDs back there, done deal. One thing that I can tell you about putting the UV resin in is it took a while to cure. I kept it under there probably, I want to say probably like 30 minutes until it had cured hard, non-tacky, and smooth the way that I wanted it. So just be very careful when you're working with UV resin. Wear gloves and don't be breathing that stuff in. The complications with this thing really came with the wiring. So I had to rip out the circuit board and basically rewire the whole thing to 3 main switches. The first switch goes to a 9-volt battery, and that controls the back thrusters, the back spine LEDs, and all of the cobalt blue that is on the inside of the hood of the Batmobile peering out through the vents. The second switch I actually soldered onto the included stock battery holder after I removed the circuit board, and that switch controls the headlights and the wheel lights. And then finally, the third switch controls all of the stock McFarlane lights, as well as the motor that I installed on the front. The motor was an intimidating feat, but honestly, I can tell you it took me probably about 10 minutes. So what I did with the motor was I took out the orange light that's in the front, and I dremelled another hole, separate hole, to put the orange light in. In the original hole, I placed the mount for the actual motor, and the stem for the motor protruded through that. I then got a piece of styrene and connected it to the stem of the motor, and then I hot glued the other end of the styrene stick to the inside of the actual top that I had cut from the original. Once everything was done, I attached the motor and wired it up, hit the switch, voila, started turning, and it looked freaking amazing. For something that I thought was going to be intimidating, it really was probably the most easiest things that I actually did to modify this Batmobile. So there you have it. This is my custom that I did for the McFarlane 97, the one that I told myself I was not going to upgrade. Hopefully this gives you some inspiration. If you have any questions, make sure to ask me in the comments below, and make sure you hit the like button, and if you haven't subscribed already, maybe consider subscribing. All right, thank you guys for watching. Until next time, peace.